Welcome to Ancient Edge, where we unearth the secrets that shaped civilizations and the forgotten technologies that could reshape our future. Picture this, a scorching desert where temperatures soar past 45 degrees Celsius, the sun beating down mercilessly on endless dunes. Now imagine stepping through a doorway into a room that feels 20 degrees cooler, the air moving gently across your skin, carrying with it the faint scent of water and stone. No electrical hum, no compressor rattling, no power grid buckling under the strain, just silence and the whisper of wind doing what it has done for millennia. This wasn't fantasy. This was daily life in ancient Persia, in Cairo, in Dubai, before it became a forest of glass towers. The question that haunts us today is not how they achieved this remarkable feat, but why we, with all our technological prowess, chose to forget it entirely. The invisible cool unveiling ancient air. Long before the first air conditioner wheezed to life in 1902, the architects of the ancient world had already perfected nature's cooling system. They called them Badirs in Persia, Malkafs in Egypt, and Barjil across the Arabian Peninsula. These weren't primitive attempts at comfort. They were sophisticated wind catchers, towering structures that rose above rooftops like sentinels, their mouths open to the prevailing winds. From the sun-baked cities of Yazd and Kashan to the narrow streets of medieval Cairo, from the coastal settlements of the Persian Gulf to the oasis towns of North Africa, these elegant towers stood as testament to human ingenuity, working in harmony with natural forces rather than against them. The brilliance lay not in their complexity, but in their profound understanding of physics. These were not decorative additions to buildings, they were integral components of an architectural ecosystem designed to transform hostile environments into habitable sanctuaries. Every material, every angle, every opening was calculated with the precision of engineers who had spent generations, just observing how air moves, how heat transfers, and how water evaporates. They turned the very elements that made their regions uninhabitable into allies. The mechanics of a windcatcher reveal an almost poetic elegance in their simplicity. The tower itself, often square or octagonal, rose several meters above the building, with openings facing the direction of prevailing winds. When wind struck these openings, it created positive pressure, forcing the air downward through vertical shafts deep into the building's interior. This wasn't merely air movement. It was orchestrated ventilation that understood pressure differentials the way a musician understands harmonics. But the genius extended beyond simple wind capture. On still days when the desert air hung motionless and oppressive, the system activated its secondary mechanism through thermal buoyancy, the stack effect. The warm, less dense air that accumulated inside the living spaces naturally rose and escaped through the tower's upper openings, creating negative pressure that drew cooler air from ground level or courtyards below. The building itself became a breathing organism, inhaling cool air and exhaling heat without any mechanical intervention. The true masterstroke, however, came in the integration with water systems. Ancient Persian architects frequently positioned wind catchers above qanats, underground channels that carried water from distant mountains. As air descended through the shaft, it passed over these subterranean waterways or specially constructed pools in basement chambers. The evaporation that occurred absorbed tremendous amounts of heat from the air, a natural refrigeration process that could drop temperatures by 15 degrees Celsius. The thick mud brick and stone walls, materials chosen not just for their availability, but for their thermal mass, absorbed heat during the day and released it slowly at night, creating a natural temperature buffer that smoothed the savage extremes of desert climate. Historical accounts describe interiors maintained at comfortable temperatures between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius, while outside the mercury pushed past 45 degrees. These weren't marginal improvements. They were the difference between survival and suffering, between thriving communities and abandoned ruins. The unraveling of this ancient wisdom didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual erosion that began in earnest in the early 20th century when Willis Carrier perfected mechanical refrigeration. The invention of the modern air conditioner promised something truly revolutionary. Instant cooling at the flip of a switch, cooling that didn't depend on wind direction, building orientation, or traditional architectural knowledge. The appeal was undeniable, and the adoption was swift. But the real killer of windcatcher technology was the transformation of our cities themselves. The explosive urbanization of the mid-20th century demanded speed and standardization. Traditional architecture required skilled craftsmen who understood local climate conditions, prevailing wind patterns, and the thermal properties of indigenous materials. These buildings took time, expertise, and honestly cultural knowledge passed down through generations. Modern construction offered the seductive promise of concrete and glass boxes that could be erected anywhere on Earth using the same blueprints, the same materials, the same methods. Architecture became divorced from place, and with that divorce, the accumulated wisdom of millennia became, irrelevant. Perhaps most crucially, we entered an era of energy abundance. Post-war prosperity in the West was built on cheap, seemingly limitless fossil fuels. Why wrestle with the complexities of passive cooling when electricity was affordable and air conditioning delivered Arctic temperatures to the Sahara? The very concept of working with nature rather than dominating it seemed quaint, even backward. Progress meant controlling our environment completely, bending it to our will with brute force technology. The hum of the air conditioner became the sound of modernity, of development, of civilization itself. The silent efficiency of the windcatcher was drowned out by the roar of compressors. Yet as our planet warms and energy grids strain under unprecedented demand, architects and engineers are rediscovering what ancient builders never forgot. In Masdar City, the ambitious sustainable development in the United Arab Emirates, modern windcatchers rise above cutting-edge green buildings, their designs informed by computational fluid dynamics, but their principles unchanged from ancient Yazd. Universities in Australia have integrated adapted Badgir designs into campus buildings, achieving significant cooling without mechanical systems. Even in Europe, where windcatchers seem culturally alien, architects are incorporating their principles into passive house designs that require minimal energy for climate control. The climate crisis has forced a reckoning with our energy-intensive approach to comfort. As temperatures climb and electricity consumption for cooling becomes one of the fastest-growing sources of carbon emissions, the elegance of passive systems becomes impossible to ignore. Modern materials and technologies now allow us to optimize these ancient designs in ways their original builders could never have imagined. Sensors can adjust louvers to maximize airflow based on real-time wind conditions. Computational modeling can predict performance before construction begins. Solar-powered fans can augment natural convection when needed. The wisdom isn't being replicated, it's being evolved. What we face now is not a question of capability, but of will. The technology exists, proven over centuries and validated by modern science. The climate imperative could not be clearer. What remains is whether we can overcome our addiction to energy-intensive convenience and relearn the art of living with nature rather than in spite of it. The wind catchers of ancient Persia weren't just cooling systems, they were a philosophy embodied in architecture, a recognition that human ingenuity achieves its highest expression not in dominating natural forces, but in understanding and channeling them. When we abandoned these technologies, we lost more than just an efficient way to cool our buildings. We lost the knowledge of how to build in harmony with place, how to observe and work with local conditions, how to create comfort without cost to the planet or future generations. The coolest buildings of tomorrow may indeed breathe with the wisdom of yesterday, if we have the humility to listen to what the wind has been trying to tell us all along. If this journey into forgotten wisdom has sparked your curiosity, subscribe to Ancient Edge. Share this video with anyone who wonders whether the solutions to our modern crises might lie buried in the past. And keep exploring with us, because every ancient technology we unearth isn't just history, it's a blueprint for survival we desperately need to remember.